Welcome, everyone. We are so happy and so privileged to have our dear friend Julie here today. Julie Hernando is the founder of Lighthouse Sanctuary in the Philippines, and it is a safe house and rehabilitation center for children who are survivors of human trafficking and sexual abuse. She's going to be sharing her story today, how she came about this amazing calling and what she's noticing as far as wellness and what she feels that the future wellness is going to look like. Welcome to Modern Sages Podcast.
I'm Jen Gilbreth.
And I'm Candace Coons.
With over 25 years combined, we have delivered messages from beyond,
explored ancient healing wisdom, and integrated these profound teachings into our everyday life.
We are passionate about creating new ways of being human in the modern age by integrating the wisdom of the past with the present and coming into remembrance of who we truly are.
Are you ready to change your relationship to life itself? If the answer is yes, your journey begins now.
As always, before we jump into this amazing topic, we are going to be talking about our tea today. So this is red clover. It smells amazing and it tastes so divine.
It is really nice. It's not super herbaceous. It's not woody. It's a very mild tea. You can taste the high mineral content of the herb. You notice like when you taste, you can really taste the minerals. I have a little bit of sweetener with mine. You don't really drink yours with sweetener, but gosh, I love mine with sweetener. But anyway, what's really great about this red clover is that gosh, there's again a lot of medicinal properties. We were talking about like what would be our top 3 go-to herbs to have in your cabinet. And I would say red raspberry tea leaf, dandelion, and red clover, just because it covers so many different issues. But the main one that I love so much is that it helps regulate hormones and balance hormones. So if you're finding that your hormones are all over the place, you might want to adopt red clover into your diet as a medicinal. And it also is great for people who are bleeding heavily, having heavy cramps. It can help alleviate some of the cramping and help kind of tone down some of the heavy bleeding. It's great for women who are menopause or perimenopausal because it really helps regulate some of the moods and mood swings that you feel, the heart palpitations if you're going through menopause. Some women experience not only the sweating, but heart palpitations, mood swings, all of those things. So red clover can really help with all of those symptoms. And then it goes on into all these other areas as well. It has compounds that are anti-cancer compounds, and especially for prostate cancer. And so if someone is struggling with prostate cancer or certain kinds of breast and ovarian cancer, not that I was completely tied to hormones. They say if it's hormone related cancer, to be cautious about that because it does help increase the estrogen in your body. But if that is not the case, it could actually help with many kinds of different cancers. And another one that I really loved was the hair loss.
Yes. You were talking about you can obviously heat it up and then let it sit and cool and then use that as a hair wash, and it's supposed to prevent hair loss. Yeah, and so you just put it in your hair like in the shower, you just put it in and then rinse it out.
Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be a nice rinse. It's supposed to make your hair extra shiny as well. So
that's so amazing.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Well, let's dive in. I feel so honored and so privileged to have you here today. It was so amazing. Just last week, me and Candace were like, we need to have Julie on. And normally you live in the Philippines and you're in Utah for a few weeks. And so it just worked out perfectly that obviously this is meant to be. And I'm just really excited to hear your wisdom.
Thank you. It's such a privilege to be here. I'm so excited to be with you guys.
Well, I'm excited to hear about your story because we've been friends and neighbors. We were neighbors in Saratoga before you moved to the Philippines and before I moved to Torrey, and we became friends at that time. And I'll never forget because I remember you talking about wanting to do something like this. Like you were just brainstorming and feeling inspired. You're like, I feel like this is the direction I want to go. And to see how far you've come and during this time, it's just been such an inspiration in my life. I mean, hands down, Julie, You inspire me on so many different levels. Your strength, your spirituality, your perseverance and tenacity is something like I have never seen in another human being. I really haven't.
Thank you.
You are a perfect example of someone who leads by inspiration. It's like every day you are asking, like, what do we need to do? What is the next step? What does Spirit want us to do to help these people? And so, yeah, I just would love for you to share with us, just like those beginning phases. Do you remember like when you first felt inspired? And also too, I would love for you to share, of course, some about your family and where you're from, and just anything else that you feel like you'd like to share with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I first want you to know that respect goes both ways. And I definitely feel that was more than I deserve, but I thank you for it all. Yeah, I was born and raised in Salt Lake City and grew up in, the typical family around here. And I went on a mission in Ecuador, and then I went to BYU, Hawaii, where I met lots of Filipino friends. And so when I got back to Utah, I met the love of my life, who had been born and raised in the Philippines, and then came here as a teen and was still trying to find his way in life. And so after college, we found each other and started our family. And we both had, I think what we had most in common was that desire to serve. We just love people, and we both wanted to be able to make a difference. But our family was the most important thing we had. And we have 4 children together. We were very happy raising our children. And I think with every other good journey, ours started with the hardships. And when, of course, everything started to fall apart in our lives, and we thought that all that was good was over, in our relationship, in our home, in our at his workplace, and everything we had, everything was, the ground had been taken out from under us, and we felt that it was all over. And that, of course, was when we turned back to the Lord, in a very desperate way, to say, we need that relationship direct with him. And we each, in our own separate times, in our own separate ways, really rebonded with the Lord in a very real and long-lasting way. And we went through healing, because during that time where the ground was taken out from under us, I fell apart physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Everything was broken. And when I turned back to him in that way, everything healed. And it was a healing that for me was so miraculous, and it seemed above and beyond anything I dreamed was possible, that it was this shift in my life of, I just wanted so desperately to give that to others. And so I remember just praying, what can I do? And I had all these ideas in my mind of what I would, what I could do. And none of them surely were what ended up happening. But I had my ideas at that point.
Yeah. I love that. It's like, it reminds me of when it's like when you lined up, when you reconnected to the Lord, it helped you align energetically and helped you heal your body, helped you be attuned about what was the calling, with the inspiration, because it's about alignment. It's about healing. And that is what Spirit brings to us. If you're Christian or not Christian, but if you bring that energy into your heart, then it attunes you in a sense, and it starts healing you, and you're a multidimensional being. So it's going to heal you on all levels, which is what happened to you. Is almost like the pieces were here and it went and just lined you right up. And then all of a sudden now you're just this open vessel, ready to receive, the inspiration, the download of what is most aligned with your highest self.
Definitely.
It's so cool.
That's so beautiful. It's so interesting because as you've been talking, I don't always talk about this, but I feel like your mom's side of the family, like your grandma on mom's side, is so present in your space. I just see her, like, she's passed, correct? I just see her like sprinkling these daisies and like just all around you and just saying like how beautiful and how prized that you are, and how like she's so proud that you've aligned yourself to be able to do this kind of a mission. And she's very emotional in that space, just showing like how powerful and how beautiful and how much of a warrior you are, because it's hard at times too. And she says like you're not alone, but like if you could see how many people you're affecting who have passed, and those to come too, you would be surprised.
Thank you.
So she just like wants to give you so much glory in that space. So beautiful.
It is.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me. Thank you.
And it's so true. It's, a lot of people have this misconception that, they see us doing work and they think, oh, they've got it easy. It all lined up, it all lined up and it just came to them. It landed in their laps and this and that. And it's just not the way it works. Even people who, are experts at whatever field that they're experts at, they still have the challenges and everything else. It's not like everything was just, lined out on a rug for you in a silver platter. You still had to work really, really hard. And I've seen you go through all of these challenges, and every single time you go to the same thing. You line yourself up with the Lord and with Spirit, and then you ask for the next step. Because a lot of times when you're on this path, it feels like you're blindfolded. You don't really know. And then you came into it, you didn't have prior experience and opening these facilities up. You learned everything from ground zero. Again, why I'm just like in awe of you. But I feel like that's really important for people to know. It's like, if you line up with your heart, it doesn't mean that you're not going to face obstacles and challenges, but if you keep doing it, it will give you the next step.
So true.
Every time, and it doesn't mean that you're not going to have the human experience and not feel worry and doubt and fear and all of those energies too, and insecurity,
Absolutely.
am I qualified? Can I really do this? Who am I? All those questions that we go through. But if you just keep trusting that, if you just keep following your heart and listen, pray and listen, then you'll know what the next step is.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Beautiful. So after you prayed and aligned and you decided, how did you get into all of this?
So I had been given a blessing back when I was 16. It was all typed up and I had read it probably 100 times. But after this specific prayer, I remember getting up off of my knees and verbatim, the words came back to my mind that I had a special facility with young people. And I had never understood it in that way, but I could see at the same time that those words came back verbatim what that looked like. And I could see a shelter in my mind. And it was almost like a flash. So once it was gone, it was like, wait a minute.
What was that? What was that?
How am I supposed to make that happen? What exactly did it look like? All the details were gone, but I knew that that's what we were supposed to do. So I called my husband, who was still at work, and said, I just got this really clear answer that we're supposed to move our family to the Philippines and open a shelter. And I said, I know your dad has land there. Can we talk to your dad? Because I really believe it's supposed to be there. And at first he was like, wow, I can feel that. I mean, he just said he was just surrounded by this very strong confirmation that this is the right thing. Let's do it. And he called his dad right away. His dad said, I know there's a reason that I've been fighting so hard in this specific area. So let's go make it happen. By the time my husband got home from work, he's like, I'm questioning if maybe we're a little bit lunatic.
This is a huge leap of faith. We have 4 kids. We're living in a great neighborhood and we're going to follow this prompting and we're just going to go. That is huge.
To the Philippines, which I had never visited before. I had an idea what it was like, but I had only heard stories. And my husband was from Manila, so he didn't know the area where we felt prompted to go really at all. I mean, he had visited there once or twice, but he really didn't know it. He didn't know the dialect they speak there, or, much of it. So he did question if I was completely crazy to leave everything. Our baby at the time was 4 months old when we got the answer. And so for me, it was all those questions. Am I really qualified for this? Why me? What about my children? This is going to destroy our family. We're in the perfect neighborhood. I went through all those questions. Every time I went through the questions, it was just peace.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. Just trust. It's going to be okay. And so my brother, who was a huge part of all the miracles, said, what if you go visit? Just go for a visit to the Philippines and see if you could actually live there with your children. So, okay, I'll go. My husband was like, sweet. I don't care what happens from here. I get a trip to the Philippines. I've been wanting to go back for all these years. And so before we left, we sent an email to the mayor up in the area where my father-in-law had been working, trying to get his properties back. And we let her know what we were wanting to do, specifically work with children who had been trafficked or sexually abused, and help them through the healing process and the reintegration process, and help their families. And it was all in the letter. And we sent it off and asked her if she could meet this specific date. And when we got there, my husband has a relative who lives there and who was helping coordinate the meeting. And she came back and said, the mayor was supposed to be out of town for the same 3 days that you were going to be in this city. And she canceled everything to meet with you. And we were like, who are we? Like, I'm not even the kind of person who visits with mayors. and she's going to cancel plans to be with me. Like, who are we? And so when we walked into her office, we only took our baby at the time. He was 6 months old at that time. So it was just my husband, my parents-in-law, myself, and our baby. And as soon as it was time to go in the mayor's office, my baby needed me. He needed to be fed, and I couldn't be there. And I thought, oh my gosh, I was the one driving all of this. My husband at this point was still questioning if I was crazy. And I said, sweetheart, it's on you. I've got to go take care of our baby. And so I went down the hall to take care of our baby, and my husband sat down and they started chatting. And as soon as they were to the point of my husband ready to explain what we were to do, my baby was fine. We walked back in, but it was clearly still on him. And so he told the mayor, this is what we're planning to do. This is why. These are all the things that we feel. And the spirit in the room was just, I mean, you could cut through it.
Wow.
It was beautiful. And the mayor said, thank you for letting me know. Can I tell you my side of the story? And we said, yeah, what's your side of this story? And she said, I just had a meeting with all of the, basically those who do statistics with the health office. And they said that they showed me all the statistics of HIV and AIDS in adult men and in adult women. I said, what about the children? They said, you don't want to know. She said, I do want to know. And they showed her, and it was higher than all the men and all the women.
Wow. And
she said, why is this? What's happening to our children? And they said, they're being abused. And she said, not in my city. This can't happen in my city. She's a wonderful woman. And she was devastated. And she said she went home and she just fell to her knees. Lord, what do I do? I don't know what to do, but this can't happen in my city. And she said, I woke up the next morning and there was your email.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
So we were all in tears in this. That was the transformation for my husband, because at that moment he knew it was on him. The Lord had called him too. It wasn't just me. And he knew that the mayor knew, and there was no turning back on that miracle.
It's almost like he had to have confirmation himself to be like fully in. That's so powerful.
Yeah, this is such a beautiful example of what it looks like to completely trust, to have faith, to trust, to follow your heart, and how miracles become this like normalcy. It's It's like miracles do happen for real. There is divine timing to things. You will get confirmation if you just stay solid, if you stay true. It's like, even like when being out in the hall and you're like, oh gosh, I get all the way here and now I'm being pulled away. You know, it's like, even because you were planning on presenting, and the way that everything unfolded, it still, I think, was perfect for what your husband needed, for that confirmation, for what she needed, what you needed. It was like, you all got the confirmation.
Absolutely.
From the prompting that say, okay, yes, you heard right. You got that confirmation. Here's the validation. Here's the proof. Miracles happen and you're being guided by spirit.
Absolutely.
I love that. It's so beautiful. It's such a perfect example of what that looks like. Because a lot of people, when they're moving from the head space to the heart space, that's really hard because they want validation right up front. They want to know that they write this list out or they make this plan, that everything is going to go exactly the way that they think it's going to go. And I have found, and you have found, that once you make that turn and you start living heart center life, you have to get really used to faith. You have to get used to kind of being in this allowance with your life. You know, you allow yourself to be open to the promptings every day, you know, about what you need to be doing, because you don't always get that immediate knowing that everything is going to work out a certain way. You just have to keep trusting. It's like you keep falling back into that heart space, that trust space, and going, okay, here I am. What next? Yeah.
So what was the process like after that meeting?
We saw a lot of miracles that whole time that we were there in the Philippines, which was only 2 weeks, but they just kept happening, where we knew that it was just a matter of moving forward. And so we came back here to Utah and we sold up basically all of our stuff and rented out our home and went as quick as we could. Got the organization set up on the side, and then got there, and then you have to adjust to the pace. So like you talk about, faith is really, it's a release of control, you know, just understanding that now you have this, once you're aligned, you've got this umbilical cord, and you know, you can allow it to just keep feeding and you can keep moving forward, or you can sever it and then life is chaos. So when we got there, it was like this readjustment, because faith felt different. There were things we had to be in control of or try to do, but at the same time, nothing was on our timetable. Nothing was as we had expected. So it took 1.5 years of paperwork, and more paperwork, basically, to make it happen. And but the trials came, of course, with everything, you know, where are we going to live, and how are we going to sustain ourselves, and while this is all happening, and just the adjusting, you know. My children didn't love living in a house that didn't have windows, where there were mice running around and cockroaches coming out of the sewers, and you know, this was an adjustment from our beautiful Saratoga Springs life. Yeah. And for all of us, but definitely for the kids, I had so much more respect for them for being able to adjust to things that they were hard and different.
And what amazing opportunity for them to see you guys put it all out and start fresh somewhere new with such a huge purpose. Like, that is the most powerful thing that your kids could even experience. Like, they probably view life totally different than any other kids.
Yeah, it's one thing to say that you need to live a life of faith and follow the Lord and all that kind of stuff, but to put your action behind your words and to sell everything and take everyone there. First of all of you are amazing. I mean, you all have such strong soul missions and soul agreements with each other to do what you're doing. I mean, each one of you. What I love about like what Jim was saying is, like, to piggyback on that, is that you're backing it up. Like, everything that you believe in, you're saying, look, not only do I believe it, but I'm going to sacrifice everything for what I believe. And this is the way that you trust. This is the way you have faith. This is the way you pray. This is the way you line up. This is what it looks like to listen. And it doesn't mean that everything is just going to be given to you and it's rainbows and unicorns. You're still going to have to work hard. Definitely. And you're still going to have to persevere, but you just stay centered in that truth. Yeah. And everything will work out. And so I love that, because a lot of people say, oh, do what I say, but don't do what I do. And you don't live by that kind of energy at all. You and your husband are so about like, hey, this is what we believe and we're going to do it. Even if it's scary, even if it's hard, we're still going to do it. Mm. And that's so powerful.
I felt like I learned so much from the kids, because naturally they just have so much faith, and they don't get so far out of line like we do as adults, so they were more centered, and they did have a better understanding even from the time they were tiny. And they would talk about, they could feel the angels. And I remember asking Kamali, she said, I needed to give a talk in church. And she said, well, tell them why we're here. I said, will you tell me why we're here? She said, well, the Lord wants us here. I said, how do you know that? She said, I feel it. I said, how do you feel it? She said, I feel safe every day. I feel that the angels are protecting us. And, wow. This was a very different world where it didn't look safe compared to our world. We don't have men with giant guns walking around like they do, guarding everything there. And, we don't have people that are covered in headdresses and chopping down trees with giant swords here. It's a different world. And even
not to mention, like, everything lives there. So like snakes and roaches and rats. And then you have the typhoons, the typhoon that you went through. I mean, every kind of challenge that you could imagine, really. Not to mention the fact that y'all got sick, you got COVID. There's so many things. And yet you still see all these miracles and things keep moving forward. And it's just like life. It's always this 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. It's like everything is a flow. So and this constant movement and flowing energy. And I think a lot of people, when they feel that 2 steps back, they're like, what? I'm supposed to be here. I shouldn't be dealing with these difficulties right now. And you're like, no, that is the natural flow of energy and how it moves forward. But as you keep moving forward, you're like 1 step of progression at a time. Eventually you're going to look back and say, look how far we've come.
Yeah. I love all that. That's so, so beautiful. So what is it that you do in the safe home? How does that lay out? How many children are there? Can you give us a little information on that?
Yes. So it's a safe home for girls, all female. The only boys that we've had are under the age of 6, who come either with siblings or they could be a child of one of the teen parents there. But the purpose of the shelter, first of all, is safety. So these girls are all referred to the shelter because they can't be safe. Either there's sexual abuse happening in their home, or they don't have any support at home. They're blamed when they go home. Either they've been rescued outside, and at home they tell them, that's just how life is. So they come, number 1, for safety. The second thing they come for is healing. And that healing is holistic. So we look at the food that they eat and the music that they listen to and the art that they do. I mean, every aspect of physical, emotional, spiritual, all of it. And so some of them are there a very short time and they get some. And we have one who just moved out who's been there 2 years. And so that was a long time, but that process of healing shifts them from being a victim into being a leader. And so they are truly the girls who will be leading the next movement of changing this acceptance of sexual abuse, changing the culture of victim blaming and all of this. And they're already doing an amazing job. We can take up to 20 girls at a time. We have 10 right now. And we've kind of averaged about 10 the last couple of years.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Love to hear about your journey, about how you started this integration of wellness with these girls.
So I think most importantly, I do want to say the Lord chose me because I have faith, but he chose everybody else because they've got skills. And we have
True leader right there.
The miracles have really come through because of the volunteers and our staff. They're just amazing and skilled and able. And we've really, really been amazed at seeing what they can do. But we've had volunteers come in who've taught the kids over Zoom meditation, mindfulness, yoga, art. Some come in and do these things. Those are all volunteers. They don't get paid anything. And just very, very skilled, amazing volunteers. And we have our staff who every morning and every night does a spiritual devotional with the kids. So they sing praise music, they read from the scriptures, they discuss whatever it is that they're going through and what help they need spiritually every morning and every night. They watch videos, inspirational videos. And so that's been really huge. Every day at 3:00, we have a group session. So we go through abuse recovery. We go through emotional resilience, and we go through a set of addiction recovery, because oftentimes with abuse comes addiction, especially if the healing hasn't happened early enough on in their process.
So you use all of these different modalities, and this has evolved, right? Because at first you had less, but over time you realized you needed to integrate more of these wellness techniques with everybody. Absolutely. So when a child comes to the safe house, like how does it start? Do you have a program you just have laid out it's the same for everybody? Or do you analyze them in the sense of saying, okay, they need more of the physical or the spiritual or the emotional component? And how does that happen? How's that?
Great question. Day one, it's hard to know what they need. So when they come in, usually they are afraid and angry and trying to figure out who to blame or where to run or what to do. They're generally in fight or flight. So we have one of our most recent, within 24 hours, she ran, and we let her go. And we just let the police know that she had run, and they brought her right back. And so we asked her how we could help. And we let her know that, it's not a jail and we're not going to force her. And if she would like what we had to offer, that we would be there to help her. It was within a week. She was already an advocate and saying, can I invite my friend here? Can I need this and this. And she was taking on what worked for her. So we found the first thing is just to listen and watch behavior. So the first day is really just orienting them. This is who we are. This is what we do, but we don't put any pressure on them as far as what they need to do. After they've adjusted and they figure out how things flow and they let down their guard a little bit, then we do individual sessions with them. So we break down how they see the world. What does family look like for you? Where are they at emotionally, physically? How do they see God? And that is a really big one. So many of them are very angry or denying him. And so we just start there and work with them individually. And then they're always invited to all of the sessions. It's never a forced thing. They're just always invited every day. And generally, the majority go. And it's interesting because you can see the ones who resist it are the ones who struggle with their healing the most. And we just let them know it's on your timetable. When you're ready, it's okay.
That's awesome.
How long do you know? So you said you had a girl here for 2 years, and then some are kind of in and out quicker. How do you decide that?
We have a whole group that decides that. So the police officer who rescues them, the social worker who refers them, their own parents or whoever they're going to go back to, and then our social worker and our team. We all make that decision together with the child. And if the child is old enough and coherent enough, they help to make that decision. So the first choices in that is, are they safe to go home? Is the person either behind bars or has the case gone far enough in that they're safe at home? And then of course, are they supported at home? And so some have a great support system. They have a good family, but they can't get away from that neighbor or that whoever who's trying to sell them, or who's perpetrating them. And so once we can get that out of the way, sometimes we can get them home quickly and it's a good place. Other times the family's still in denial. I hope it's okay to tell Jen's story. I know she would be happy for her story to be told. She's the one who stayed for 2 years, and she actually just moved out into her own apartment and is doing amazingly well. So she was abused by her own biological father for years after her own mother died. And she had a baby. That's her father's baby. And the family was so angry at her telling the truth. And they asked for her to deny it and asked for him to be set free. And as much as she's tried to help them understand that it's not okay, they can't accept it. They feel that she's a traitor for allowing other people to know about her family. And so in her case, going home is just, it's not something she could do. And so she's moved out on her own, and she's actually working for us now. And I would say she's one of the greatest staff we have. Wow. Because she understands the girls in a perfect way. She's 19 now and her baby's 2. And so she comes in and they help take care of her baby, and she helps take care of everyone else. She tutors the girls in their schooling, and she's amazing.
Wow. So when you look back at your journey, like, what are some of the things that you've learned about yourself?
Oh, so much.
Yeah, let's start there. So yourself first, and then we'll go into some other areas. But what have you learned about yourself?
Definitely that when you let go of control, if you let it go directly to that umbilical cord, life always goes in the right direction. No matter how bumpy it is, it's always the right direction, and it's okay to let go. I've learned that healing doesn't always look like a straight path, and that it can get really, really ugly before it looks better. I've definitely learned that it's okay not to know, and that faith is more powerful oftentimes than knowledge. That it's more important to just know that you have someone else, God, who knows it all,
who sees the big picture.
Yeah. That's more powerful than having all the knowledge. And just, it's okay to cry and fall apart and have bad days, and that they get better. I think is what I've learned about myself. I've also learned the power of meditation. The Lord was trying for years before this journey to just at least get me on that one thing. And it came a million times, that offer, and I never really understood the power of it until after. And we've talked before about cords. And oftentimes when you're surrounded by so many people in need and they see someone of strength, it's just natural to say, I need some of that.
Latch on. Yeah, energetically and physically.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, they will hang all over you physically, and then it's as if you feel they don't leave. Even after they physically are removed, you still feel that drain.
Exhausted and drained. Yes. Yeah.
And I've learned that I have to do meditation. I have to be able to surround myself with enough light that I can continue to give in a healthy way.
I think that's a perfect example too, because a lot of times we're drawn to things and we don't necessarily know why we're drawn to them, but we just keep going back to. You were saying you felt drawn to meditation, but it just wasn't working, or it was just like a side note. And I've experienced that too with meditation, with certain other things in my life. But it's almost like we're constantly being given the opportunity, even if it's just a thought. And if we're feeling stuck, well, what thoughts have been coming for the past 3-5 years? It's pretty consistent. Or what are you really intrigued by? And then how do you get started? Because I feel like especially in the Aquarian age, when people are just waking up or maybe they're feeling stuck or stagnant, the best thing that someone can do is to recount the things that they're really drawn into or what keeps coming at them, and just move forward somehow in that area, and it will help align other things.
I absolutely
so
agree.
true.
One of the most powerful days for me, we had a new girl come in, and we were all sitting in one of our group sessions, and I was so excited to have this new girl see all the things that we were doing. So I talked about, let's talk about all the things that we do with art therapy and music therapy and meditation and movement and all of these things. And then I want you to tell what has been the most powerful for you. What's been the biggest change for your healing? And we went around the room, and every single one said prayer, 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 prayer. They had never truly been taught to pray before, like really connect. They had recited prayers in school, but they had never really truly connected. But once they had that base in place, they loved meditation, because they could be whole and feel that connection more. And then the art made more sense, and the music, everything felt like you were talking about in place. It was like they just needed that alignment first to know that they were who they are. I'm divine, I'm connected with him, and then all these other things seem to fit in place and make it
awesome.
So as you talked about praying and how they've been able to align in that space, I feel like it would be probably something that you see that's very common is, and I think that a lot of people have this emotion, like, how could God allow such heavy things to be placed on those children? How do you help them find peace in that?
That is probably 3 out of the 8 sessions of our recovery, of one of our pieces of recovery, abuse recovery. It's absolutely so important to understand, because so many, I would say every one of us goes through a trauma at some point, right? And many of us as children. But to understand why these things happen, or who God really is, changes that whole view. And I had a lot more expectation of the anger or the resistance of God, but for some reason it's very short-lived there. It's as if after a few sessions, it's like the light goes on and they don't go back. And I've been really shocked. I think that that's culturally different. I've heard other people say who've worked with our girls and who've worked with girls here, that there's something easier about the girls as far as that goes. Once they know the light, they just grab on.
Well, it reminds me too, it's like attracts like. If you're lining up and your family's lining up and your staff is lining up, they're praying, they're aligning to spirit, they're practicing meditation, there is an energy with that. And so they're coming, the girls or the kids are coming into that energy. And even though they're maybe struggling in the beginning, maybe part of the reason why it happens or it moves so quickly or shifts so quickly is because you are centered, because you are in a space. So when they come into your space, their energy is more likely to shift. It's like a tuning fork energy in a sense. So it's like the invitation is there. And all they have to do is just make a choice to choose right in, and they just automatically start moving in that space. Because I love too how you mentioned like the prayer and meditation is the foundation, because prayer is like, it sets the intention. It says to the universe, okay, I'm ready to connect. I'm ready to ask for support. Because that's the other thing too, is the universe is a free will universe. It's important to ask for that support. So it gets that conversation going between them and the divine, which of course reinforces the remembrance of who they are, that they are divine, that they are a child of God. And then meditation, you add that to meditation, which is kind of a listening practice. right? And mindfulness and lining up, it shifts energy, it attunes you, but it also teaches you the amazing skill of listening, of just holding space and waiting for answers to come to you and just being lined up and allowing the energy to move. And then you go into the dance and the art therapy, which really addresses the emotional aspect, the expression, moving energy out of your body, being able to express what you're feeling. So it really handles that emotional leg of the multidimensional self. And then you go into therapy and you talk about things, you talk about resilience and help them process mentally what has happened and help them create tools to help them with that mental aspect. And then spiritually, it's like you bookmark it. You got it in the morning, you have it in the evening. It's like, let's come into remembrance. Let's come into remembrance. You know, it's let's practice connecting with spirit. Let's go ahead and line up with spirit. Let's remember to ask. Let's remember that this is a relationship, just like all other relationships. The relationship with the divine is a relationship. And you're in relationship with yourself and you're in relationship with the divine. And then they explore these other aspects of their spirituality. And I think that would open up also the fact that there's consciousness and energy and Mother Earth and opportunities to connect and to find peace in nature and with animals and with each other, that there's lots of safe places that they can commune and interact. And then it starts to cultivate that joy again of life, that life can be good. It starts to cultivate that hope that life can be good, that you don't have to be in the same place, that your stories don't define you, your trauma doesn't define you. It was something that happened. It was an experience, but that can't touch the divinity of who you are. So it's like there's this circle you can see happening as you go through this process of healing. I love the fact that what you learned was that healing can get really messy, really ugly, before it gets better. And it reminds you of any kind of detox that you do, like you do an herbal detox or a cleanse, or you're like, oh, I feel like crap. But then after you get through it, you feel better than ever. You feel so much healthier and lighter and cleaner. But that happens on all levels. You know, there's a process of detoxification where things are kind of purged, where things come up, where you have to deal with it. And anger is the flip side of sadness and fear. And so understanding like what you're looking at when you see these kids so angry is so important too. So gosh, it's so amazing. So you've learned that healing is messy. You've learned about the power of faith and trust, letting go and surrendering. That was another big one, because you were saying that that when you just let go, and it's like that umbilical cord thing, things always work out. It's like once you surrender and you choose into listening to spirit, you can't say or have any expectations about how that's going to come into form. So it's like you be persistent moving that direction, but at the same time, it's also a letting go also. You know, I love that. Is there anything else that you can think of as you were going through these trials prior to this calling? And now that you're in this calling and things are moving, and now you're getting ready to open up another safe house. Is there anything else that comes to your mind that you've learned about life and about yourself?
Definitely that there's purpose in everything. Maybe there's a reason, but this one child story keeps coming to my mind, so I feel like I need to share it. But speaking of healing being ugly, it was very ugly. And when she came to us, she was only in that space of the only things that she was moved by were anger, greed, jealousy, all of these emotions that just drove her to, you know, fight and flight constantly. It just wore us all down. We did everything we could think of for her, everything.
I remember you telling me
it
reaching out. It
was definitely enough that I questioned everything. Like, I'll never be able to help a soul. I can't do it. And, you know, I don't even know what God would do. And I poured all my love into her, and I felt love like I had never felt before through God himself for her. And I knew he was giving me that for me to know,
to feel it,
who she really was, but she couldn't really accept who she was. And we got to a point where we said, you've got to go home. And that was hard. That it broke me. It broke pretty much everyone, but we just said, we can't, we don't have a therapist here qualified for you. She was our first. And so we thought maybe they'd all come like that. And it was all the fears, all the inadequacies, everything rolled in one. I still don't know exactly why the Lord sent her first, but there was definitely a lot of purpose. But we decided to bring her back now that everything was going well. And within a couple of days, she pulled a knife on everyone at the shelter. And we thought, oh, here we go again. What do we do? Are we prepared this time? And so again, we drove her home. And this time with a lesson. We love you. We want you. But you have to understand boundaries. We want you safe. And if you're willing to live safe, we'll give you everything you need. But you have to keep it safe for yourself and everyone else. We left her there for 2 weeks. And it wasn't the safest of situations. So it was terrifying for us. Terrifying. But we felt that that's what the Lord wanted us to do. So we left her there for 2 weeks. She came back. She's been back for 3 or 4 months. She's doing amazing. I mean, amazing. Wow. All of a sudden, when she feels the anger coming on, she knows what to do. She knows how to take deep breaths. She knows how to say, I'm sorry. This has been monumental. For 3 years, we thought there was no breaking through for this child. Mm-hmm. There was nothing we could do. Her PTSD was beyond what we could do. But we've learned that no matter what skills or non-skills we have, the Lord has a plan for everyone. And if you accept it and live within those boundaries that he sets, the miracles he can provide, the miracles he's provided for this child have blown my mind to see what he's capable of, because it's changing her, it's changing her family, it's changing her community, because people are seeing, I didn't know she could be like that. I didn't know life could be like that for her. And that's been one of my favorite miracles of this year, knowing that the Lord is so powerful, so powerful.
That's so amazing. I feel emotional even thinking about this, and the power of the Lord, of Spirit, the power that is within us, of our Creator. There's always hope.
Yes. There
is always hope, even if it doesn't appear that way at times. Thank you for sharing that. That is amazing. Now that you have explored healing from a multidimensional perspective, you've seen miracles happen. Have you noticed the last few years, this shift that's happening with wellness? Because when we were younger, anything that had to do with meditation and art therapy and sacred movement and sacred ceremony or anything like that was all woo-woo, energy medicine, all of that stuff. And now you have a personal testimony of all of this and how it works for each individual, that we are multidimensional beings. So how do you think that's going to affect wellness in the future going forward in the Aquarian age? And do you think that Lighthouse Sanctuary is going to become kind of a model for these safe houses of how you can provide healing for people? And
I definitely hope that it will become a model. I know that we'll continue to open them as we can. And it's harder to collaborate with others who are already doing, but we've found that when we do go to other shelters, that they're using a lot of these things as well. And because they are the most powerful. You talk about the Aquarian age, this is really an amazing age where those doors are open and people are really ready. And I do believe that we have to create our warriors, that as people open those doors and they're willing to accept healing and they're willing to realign, that they then become that front line to teach more and more. And so I believe that the next shelters that will come will be a lot of the kids that we're helping now, not only in our shelter, but in other shelters, because they felt the difference of living in the dark and then feeling what peace and hope look like and feel like. I believe that they truly will be those frontliners, and they'll be teaching the next generation and those around them. And it's going to make a huge impact on the whole globe. I believe the Lord's calling a lot more people who have these skills and understanding to keep passing that forward.
Gosh, I was thinking about, even as you were talking, I was looking at these soul contracts with these souls that are coming through, and they're going to eventually be the frontliners. It's like, we don't know what the bigger plan is. We don't know why these things happen to people and to these innocent people, but there are soul agreements that we came here to work towards, these missions that we have. I feel that these souls were some of our strongest and most valiant spirits that you can possibly imagine. Absolutely. To go into the darkest places that we hold here on the planet, and not only go through the experience, but to rise above it, to be able to heal and to show that example to other people behind them. These are not like, these are advanced souls that we're working with, very valiant. 100%. And so it's interesting because it's like, you know, I've had this question with students before too, where they're like, they wonder like, why do these kids have to suffer disabilities? Why do they have to go through this struggle or that struggle? And a lot of times those individuals who've gone through the most extreme things are some of the most powerful, valiant, wise souls that we have on this planet, because they've been given those challenges, because that the Lord knew that they could handle it, and that they would be coming forth and being a leader of light. Like you're saying, the frontliners, the warriors. I'm like, I just see these huge archangels, these warriors of light holding the front line, saying, we're going to create change. We're ending human slavery once and for all. So it's just so amazing. Like, even as you were saying, I'm like, these souls, and that's the thing, is like, we can't take everything by face value. It's like, you know, we have to connect in with our hearts. And one of the things that I loved about what you were saying, like even the challenge of the girl who was in the past, and then you had to send her back again and again. And then the third time she comes back, and now she's doing fantastic. You know, and having God channel that energy, that love inside of your body is like, I see you. I know who you are. Even if you don't recognize who you are, I know who you are. And she wasn't ready to accept it yet. She wasn't ready to open her heart and come back into remembrance of who she really is yet. Yes. But it didn't mean that she wouldn't eventually. Right. And she has. And that's just so incredible. It's so powerful, so inspiring.
Yeah, it's a beautiful lesson. I find that a lot of times, even in sessions, that maybe a child is struggling, or, you know, everyone's going through different things in life. And as an adult, or as a parent, as a grandparent, it's hard to watch. As a provider for these children, it's probably hard to watch and see what they go through. And you want to take it from them. And I love, Candace, what you're saying is their spirits are so valiant. And they came here to experience whatever it is that they're experiencing. So the best thing that we can do is help empower them, and to not see them as a wounded bird, but to help them learn that they can fly on their own. And I love how you said they're not victims, but warriors and leaders. And I think that's so powerful, is that we all go through things. Our children go through things, our family, children all around the world, people everywhere experiencing so many different things. And I think that when we can get out of that victim mode, when we can align, when we can find something that makes us feel connected, that umbilical cord is plugged in, ready to go, I think that we can see other people for who they are, even if they are going through trials, or maybe they're not making the same choices that you would make, right? Is that for whatever reason, their soul came here to experience that. And our job is to honor and to love and to support. Instead of make it wrong or bad or frustrated. Because I'm sure there are days where you're like, don't know how to make this happen. But it's that same thing is like everyone just wants to be loved in whatever way, shape, or form that is. And so I think it's just, all of it's so beautiful. I know there are a lot of people who are interested in knowing how to help or how to be more involved in situations and circumstances like this. So for someone who's like wanting to jump in or wanting to be involved in any kind of way, what would you say in that aspect?
This is absolutely a group process. We need every single person who's willing, or your heart calls you. We need everyone. And I would say that the first most important thing is donations. Of course, we run 100% on donations, and 100% of the donations that come in go directly to the children. So to the healing process, to the shelter, to everything that takes care of the children. And so the best place to find us is on Facebook or on online with just lighthousesanctuary.org.
Yeah, we'll have that in the show notes.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
And we also are selling our books on our website and also on our different social media pages. So that way, if people want to buy the books, but 100% of the proceeds of those books are going to Lighthouse Sanctuary too. So if they want to go that direction, or if they want to donate directly to you, that there are ways that they can contribute. There's ways that they can funnel the energy or the money towards this cause, because everything costs money. It's just the way it is. That's how you keep the lights on and keep these children fed and treated. And but one of the things I wanted to go back and touch base on what you were saying, holding that space inside of you, lining up and holding and coming to remembrance, honoring people's journey. That's so important. But at the same time, what's most important is that you line up first.
Mm.
And so it's like, from what I'm telling you, there's so many different ways of healing, but the most powerful one is lining up with spirit. That is like, it's coming back into remembrance. If you can come back into remembrance of your divinity and your connection to God, you can do anything.
Chills. I agree.
And that reminds me too of that. There's like this quote in this book called Course of Miracles, which is Christian. And there's a quote in there that says, truth is simple. Truth is simple and complexity is of the ego.
I love it.
Yeah. And that is this is another case. It's like, it seems like we have to put all these details to fix everything, but really the most powerful tool out of everything that we learned in college and the certifications and this and this and this, what does it come down to? The most powerful tool is just coming back to God, just coming back into remembrance of who you are, and remembering to pray and align and listen.
Absolutely.
It's really neat.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Julie. This has just been such an honor to be with you. And I'm so excited that she was going to be here today to share her story. And I'm sure we could go on for hours and hours. There's so much I would love to hear, but I hope that everyone enjoyed this episode. And if you would like to donate to Lighthouse Sanctuary, you can donate at lighthousesanctuary.org, or you can, we'll also have that link in our show notes. And also, if you would like to buy my children's books, the Ackermane series, you can buy them on Amazon. It's ACKERMANE. And then my name, Candace Coons. And there is Whispers of a Dragonfly, A Journey Home, and Mary Sue Finds Her Wings. And 100% of the proceeds of those books will go to Lighthouse Sanctuary. So please donate. Let's keep the good cause going. For watching Modern Sages, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
We are so grateful for your support. If you want to follow us, we have an Instagram account as well as on Facebook. We have our podcast, which is the Modern Sages podcast as well.
And we are so excited to launch our Gifts of Spirit classes in our Modern Sages Mystery School.
Absolutely. Oh, we're so excited. So we're going to link the information below in the show notes for more information about our mystery school.